I'm Finlay Aitken. I studied at the Bartlett School of Architecture and I completed my Master's just this year in June. I've been the recipient of the 2025 Dissertation Medal. My thesis was called Remaking the Extractive Island Landscape Custom and Misrule in Shetland. And essentially it traced how there was shifts in understanding and approach to landscape in Shetland, going from traditional customary practices brought over by the Norse towards a modern landscape that is shaped by industry and extraction. The essay articulated these different approaches as what I called island making, and ultimately the essay asked how can such an understanding of island making be used as a tool for activating stewardship and care for the land and sea. My tutors set out a unit brief that really challenged us to think about the island both as a geographical condition but also as this conceptual tool for imagining a type of space which exists both connected to the existing systems but also in a separate state as well. I'd been to Shetland a few years ago and it was a place I quite quickly fell in love with. I decided to start researching there and the more I started researching it, I opened up this whole history of this old form of governance and ownership that used to exist in Shetland. What I was doing essentially with the dissertation is trying to understand where this old form of governance has gone and how it's re-emerged today in Shetland through different ritual practices like the fire festival of Uphelia, and how these ongoing rituals still contain within them this old form of governance and ownership. The design work took this proposed development that's happening in Shetland, which is an expansion of one of the biggest harbours there. The challenge of the design project was to find ways to engage these sort of spaces that exist for Uphelia and for other ritual types of gathering and customary forms of neighbouring in Shetland, and try and engage those spaces or mix those spaces with existing fishing infrastructure. These tensions between these very situated practices that exist in local contexts and this inevitable capitalist extractive frontier which seems to be ever expanding. The points where those two things meet and the tensions that exist between them are extremely rich for architectural research. It's a very good place for architecture to start getting a foothold on some of these issues. The interesting part about the design project was finding those moments of concession where the industrial infrastructures give concessions to these more ritual spaces. A lot of the solutions to some of the problems we face today, like the climate crisis and like these alienating kind of extractive forces, are kind of already always emerging or existing within the kind of communities that exist within these local contexts. Going forward, I think it's very important that we try and reduce essentially the ego of the architect, and instead the role of the architect becomes something that's more akin to a researcher, where the ultimate goal is to identify these ongoing existing practices and instead of prescribing a new set of practices, just simply make space for these existing things to thrive and grow.